Today, we're going to dive into the American dream. And most people think that the American dream is owning a house, doing better than your parents, giving your kids a better life than you had. And right now, it feels like a lot of people are either convinced or they're trying to convince us that the American dream is dead. It's no longer realistic, it's not attainable, it's broken beyond repair. But what if I told you that owning a house and each generation doing better than the last one was never actually the American dream? What if we've been looking at our future through a broken lens? And what if those lenses that we're looking through are quietly shaping kind of our expectations, and they're destroying our optimism? And this kind of reinforces the cultural defeatism that really feels normal now. We're all on the decline. It'll never be better than it was yesterday. So today, I want to rewind the story because I believe that the American dream is not dead. I believe it's alive, but I also believe it's misunderstood. So let's go back in the Wayback Machine again. We're going to go back to before the phrase American dream even existed. Think about when maybe the concept of American dream would have started. And you can trace it pretty much back to 1776. Back to the American Revolution. And when the founders and the colonists were fighting off the redcoats, they weren't thinking about the square footage of their house. They weren't thinking about how big the retirement accounts were. They weren't thinking about their income brackets. But they did embed the dream into political language for every single American to recognize. And I think that you do. I think sometimes it just gets forgotten. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Those are not poetic fillers. A lot of times when we look at some of the old English type of documents, they're almost poetry more so than they mean something to us. But if you kind of read into them, they were revolutionary at the time. It was everything they were fighting against. And the idea was simple, but radical, that your life should not be defined by your birth, your class, your last name, your race, your gender. None of that stuff was supposed to matter. Success was no longer inherited. It was something that you could pursue, pursuing it through liberty, which is choice. It's self-direction. We call it personal agency. Opportunity, not outcome, was the promise. Opportunity, that's your chance to go and earn something, to build something, to outwork your neighbor, to have a little extra for your effort. That was the promise, not equity, opportunity. The distinction is very, very important. There's this historian, James Treslow Adams. He actually coined the term, the real American dream. Well, he coined the term American dream. I don't know if he called it the real American dream. But in 1931, in the middle of the Great Depression, everybody's afraid. Nobody's got money. Everybody's confidence is shaken. Maybe this American thing isn't going to work out. And James Treslow Adams comes in and he writes the Epic of America, which is what coins the phrase, the American dream. And here's kind of what most people miss. He wasn't celebrating material success in any way. We think about it today in a very material way. When that term was created in 1931, when everybody was struggling for anything material, he is actually making a counterpoint. He's warning against it. He believed that America was losing its way. It was confusing money with meaning. And listen carefully to how he actually defined the dream. Not a dream of motor cars and high wages merely, but a dream of social order in which each man and each woman shall be able to attain to the fullest stature of which they are innately capable. Now, I know that a lot of people are going to read that or hear that, and it's not going to make any sense to them. I'm going to say it again, and then we're going to talk about what it means. Not a dream of motor cars and high wages merely, but a dream of social order in which each man and each woman shall be able to attain to the full stature of which they are innately capable. It's not about stuff. It's about becoming. It's about who you are, the choices you make, where you're going, what you do. Not about how big your house is, how many iPhones you have, how fancy your car is, how early you can retire, how big your retirement account is, how much you have compared to your neighbor. It's not about stuff. Adams believed the American dream was about human potential, equal opportunity, regardless of how you were born. It was moral and civic in nature, and it was available to everyone. It still is available to anyone. Anyone, at least in America. There are countries where this is not available to you. In our country, it is still available to you. No matter how much you think it's rigged against you or how unfair the system seems, you still have the opportunity. Nowhere does he talk about wealth. He doesn't talk about it other than to say that's a problem if you focus on that. Nowhere does he promise comfort. If you want to be successful and you do want to be wealthy, you are going to be uncomfortable a lot in your life. And if you don't care about money and you don't care about wealth, you are still going to be uncomfortable a lot in life. Make a choice. Do you want to be uncomfortable, but you want to be moving towards financial freedom, or do you want to be uncomfortable and be broke? What he emphasizes over and over and over again was personal agency. Your choice matters here. Your effort matters. What you do matters. Your character matters. These are things you own. Nobody else owns them. Somebody makes a rule you don't like, it's a challenge. So what? Turn around and try a different direction. Something's not fair. Try something else. There's no one size fits all in this country. Back to our plot here, though, about the American dream. So we have the term coined during the Great Depression. If we fast forward past World War II, America has not listened to his warning. And that seems to be the way that most historical figures go. They paint the picture, leave us a message. We don't listen to it until they're dead. And then we look back and go, boy, that guy was really wise. We tend not to listen to the people right next to us. Somebody from out of town or somebody famous looks like they're smarter. So they're going to give us better perspective. And then years later, we find out that it was the person next to us who had the best advice. America didn't listen. After World War II, something had changed. The focus in general, and it makes sense, you've come in from the New Deal with FDR and all the stuff that they did to try to get us out of the Great Depression. You're coming from World War II. You're coming from the advent of Social Security. And now everybody's talking about, do you own a home? Do you have a car? Do you have a steady job? Do you have more from a materialistic standpoint than the generation before you? It wasn't fair what happened to our parents and our grandparents and their grandparents during the Great Depression. So therefore, we're going to start measuring, are you better off than that generation? And each generation, we're comparing one generation against the other, against the other. That's what we would coin the modern American dream. That's when that was born. It's really a perversion of the original American dream. American dream sounds like a great idea, but when we're talking about it today, we're not talking about the same thing they talked about when they founded it. So when people conflate the two, they say the American dream was this and we can no longer achieve it. No, you have every opportunity to achieve the American dream. You may not be able to achieve a adulterated version of the American dream, but you certainly do from a historical sense. Slowly, we've moved away from who you can become to what you accumulate. Maybe it's social media. I don't know. Maybe it's Hollywood and movies, and we get confused with what's real life and what's fake. When you go online and you see what other people have, it's curated. When you talk to your friends and they talk about this great thing that they did where they made all this money, did they tell you about all the losses they had as well? We're so worried about, are we behind? Did we accumulate enough? We're not worried about the decisions that we're making, who our character is, the impression that we're leaving on the world. Success has become something that people are measuring and not something that they are living. The happiest people I work with are happy with their life. And it almost doesn't matter how much money they have. And because of that, they end up having a lot of money a lot of times. Those that are super focused on money are miserable most of the time. Very contentious people. But this is the version of the American dream that most of us have inherited. And it's the measuring stick that many of us use to decide whether or not we're successful or whether or not we failed. And maybe that's why there's so much depression out there. We're looking at ourselves and we're not thinking about, wow, I really have strong virtues that I live by. And I've really helped, impress the next generation to be better. And honesty and integrity are really important to me. I didn't accumulate as much money as somebody else. My house isn't as big as somebody else. My college wasn't as prestigious as somebody else. Therefore, I failed. One of the most fascinating and probably telling shifts was how we started framing responsibility or personal responsibility. So there's a shift kind of in societal mindset. Meritocracy says that effort and ability matter. It matters how hard you try and how capable you are. And a lot of times capability comes from effort. And Adams believed that deeply. And a very popular kind of twist to this on a modern sense basically says otherwise. As President Obama once said, if you've got a business, you didn't build that. And he got a lot of backlash for that. And he later clarified that that quote was about shared systems, roads, schools, public investment, and that success isn't achieved by bootstraps alone. And we got to kind of like slow down on this a little bit and just focus on this for a second, because this is a prevailing narrative right now that you are only successful because of other people. Yes, having systems matter. Money is a system. If you don't have money, if you don't have a monetary system, you can't be financially successful. Think about it like that. Law and order is a system. If you don't have police and courts, and you can't do anything about people who do bad things, it doesn't matter what you do because people can come and take it. So systems matter, but systems provide an even playing field. It's a rule book for everybody. We're all playing by the same system. So you can't give credit to the system when people win or lose. It's just a system. It's a set of rules. And yes, some people start at different points. Some people start poor. Some people start rich. I would argue that people who start with more actually are probably just as challenged as people who start with less, because it is one thing to learn how to fight and scrap and build something because you have nothing and you need to do that to survive. And it's another thing to somehow get the ambition to fight and scrap like your life depends on it. That's a learned trait. That's a very difficult thing for people to learn. And this is why most wealth is actually lost by the second or third generation, because it's not necessarily inherited. Our system allows that. Our system allows for people to get extremely wealthy, for their kids to blow it, for their grandkids to blow it, and then their grandchildren, who by then are poor again, to have an opportunity to rebuild it, to become extremely wealthy again and start the cycle over. So it's true that systems matter. It's true that people start at different points. But there's a contradiction that I think is really important. The same system that we blame, whatever system means, right? But the same system that we blame for holding everybody back is also the same system that we credit when an individual is successful. It cannot be you are successful because of the system, and it cannot be everybody else is not successful because of the system. Which one is it? It has to be one or the other. The system cannot make very few people successful and then everybody else fail. What comes into there is effort, ability, choices. Does it work or doesn't it? There are people, there are real people who have pulled themselves up against the current, who have succeeded despite everything against them, who have built something actually meaningful for them, their families, their communities, the world even. And they did it in the same systems that everybody else is in. And I would say most of them would say the system isn't friendly. It's not a friendly system. There's so much, if you're in business, there's so much bureaucracy, there's so many rules. Let's say you're not in business, you just have a bunch of money. Are you worried about taxes? Are you worried about what you can and can't do with your money? Are you worried about penalties on things? Are you worried about the markets crashing? Right? The system's not friendly. The system doesn't give a damn about you. All the system does is system things. It's got rules. And it keeps making more rules. And you either update and continue to play the game, or you quit. If you quit, you care about equity. If you don't quit, you care about equality of opportunity. You care about the fact that I want the opportunity to keep going when that person quit. I'll eat their piece of pie too, since they obviously don't want it. It's not that important to them. Are we really saying that people who have built something, that their effort had no influence on their success, that their personal risk had no influence on their success? You are an investor. You put money in the market. You double your money. Somebody else takes their money. They don't believe in the markets. They're scared of the markets. They put it in a CD. They grow their money by 10%, let's say over a 10-year period. They go up by 10%, you double your money. You took the risk. You get more. Why should they get the same amount that you get when they didn't take the risk? There was a chance that you could have lost money in your investment, but you didn't. You doubled it. You made the effort. You took the risk. You get the reward. That's how the system works. It is designed to encourage people to go out into the world and do something for themselves. The reason why it bothers people is that because we have to acknowledge, and it makes us feel uncomfortable when we do, that effort, discipline, and responsibility still count. I call them old values, traditional values. I guess maybe that's a sign of my age or something, but there's a group of people that were brought up that way. Do what you say you're going to do. Do the whole job the right way the first time. Work smarter, not harder. All kinds of things that we were taught when we were kids. That's about effort, discipline, and personal responsibility. So I believe deeply in virtues. And I define virtues like this. They are the things that you do over and over again, even when nobody is watching you. Nobody's going to pat you on the back. You do them because your body and your mind and your heart tell you that's what's supposed to be done. That's who I am as a person. I know if I came short, even if nobody catches me. So I do it this way, even if nobody ever knows that I did it this way. They are different than values. Values are what you say you do and what you say you're about. And values change all the time. People change their values whenever it's inconvenient. Virtues don't. Virtues are just a part of who you are. It's hardwired into you. It stops you from doing things that you really shouldn't do. So maybe you want to call them morals or ethics or something like that, but virtues are in that line of things. Hard work, learning, honesty, respecting others. These things open doors. I see tons of people all the time coming into the workforce, already in the workforce. They don't work hard. They feel like I have a job, I'm entitled. I want maximum time off. I'm going to do minimum amount of work. The company owes me. Really? Is that how the deal is? Is that the deal? Because an employment contract is an agreement between an individual and a business. The business provides the money. The employee does the work. That's the deal. Hard work gets you ahead. Learning gets you ahead. Being able to change gets you ahead. Honesty gets you ahead. Respecting others gets you ahead. Respecting yourself gets you ahead, frankly. I see tons of people that don't respect themselves. Respecting yourself, this is how you open doors. Doing the bare minimum, bending the truth, ignoring things that make you feel uncomfortable, disrespecting other people, whether you do it online and hide behind some kind of username or something, or you do it in person. Having bad manners, those types of things. Those are things that close doors. Disrespecting yourself closes doors. You see people disheveled all the time, not presenting themselves very well. That closes doors. It's not an ideology. You can't theorize your way through this. It's a reality. People instinctively know success when they meet it. And they know people who are struggling when they meet them. Anyone who's competed in any high-level sports, business, academics, whatever, you know this. At the lower levels, people can get away with being a little bit more talented than everybody else. You get to the higher level, and this is why high school superstars don't amount to anything in college, and college superstars don't amount to anything in the pros. The higher level you go, the more you run into everybody who's got some kind of talent, but the difference between person A and person B, effort, discipline, and consistency. How do you tie this back to finance, Travis? Those who are going to get ahead financially, effort, discipline, consistency. Investing. How do you get ahead investing? Effort, discipline, consistency. Those are things you control, not somebody else. You control them. That means that every single person can build wealth. Every single person can find financial freedom. Every single person out there has an opportunity. Question is, are they willing to take advantage of it? Or is it easier to sit back and say, the system is broken, it's not for me, it's against me, it's unfair, somebody else should pay my way? That's what separates people. Everybody can apply effort. But why do people still take the easy way and give up? Everybody can stop obsessing over what they don't have, and they can start stewarding what they do have. We see tons of people that have accumulated assets, and they're so influenced by what's going on in the outside world that they abuse or neglect the assets that they do have. Focus on what you do have. Be proud of what you do have. Be grateful for what you have, and figure out how to make what you have the most that you can possibly make it, and stop worrying about the outside forces that you can't control. The truth is that those who succeed do not see an unfair world. They don't look at the world and say, it was unfair and that's why I got here. They look at a world full of systems to navigate, and they say, you know what? I figured out how to navigate this system. When one person sees a dead end, I see a challenge, and I decide whether or not I should work around that challenge, go through that challenge, or change directions completely and go in a different direction. But I have the options and the personal choices that I can make, and what I want to do when I get to what is perceived as a dead end to somebody else. That's what successful people do, and that's what separates successful people and non-successful people. Non-successful people dwell on the fact that it's not fair that they went down a path and they found a roadblock. Successful people just blow it off and keep going. I asked artificial intelligence, AI, I asked it to summarize the American dream for me. And this is what it said. The American dream began as a moral and civic ideal rooted in liberty and opportunity, was named during the Great Depression as a warning against materialism, and only later became synonymous with middle-class prosperity. So let me read that one more time. The American dream began as a moral and civic ideal rooted in liberty and opportunity. It was named during the Great Depression as a warning against materialism, and only later became synonymous with middle-class prosperity. That's the story. To say the American dream is dead is really to say one of three things. It's unfair to be held accountable for your choices, or it's unfair if others have more than you, or your effort shouldn't matter. If you say American dream is not fair, you're saying, I don't want to be held accountable for my choices. If my neighbor has more than me, it's not fair. Doesn't matter what the circumstances are. And it just doesn't matter how much I try or how smart I work. That stuff doesn't matter. I don't buy that. Anybody who's successful doesn't buy that. People who want to complain and be lazy and have somebody else pay the bill, that's who says that. If you're listening to this podcast, you're not in that group, great. But there are people that you know that are in that group. And the change in mindset is what's needed. And the reason why we cover this on a finance show is because you are getting bombarded with the narrative when you go online, when you go on social media, when you turn on the news, that you are at a disadvantage, that you cannot be successful, that there's these existential threats to your wealth and your future success. That mindset is it's creeping your brain. Basically, it's rot. It's subconscious trash that will suck you down over time. And we need to block it out. I spent decades working with people pursuing financial success. And here's what I've learned. Easy takeaways. The happiest people and the strongest families are not chasing today's version of the American dream. Obviously, right? But what are they? They are thankful. They are grounded. They prioritize relationships and community over material comparisons. People focusing on their money and what they have compared to other people. They're like anxious, shaking little like wild things. There's always something setting them off. There's no reason for that. There's absolutely no reason for that. I've built an entire business around people who are thankful, grounded, prioritize relationships and community over material comparison. When those people feel amazed, and a lot of them do, they feel amazed and even guilty sometimes about their success. I tell them this: you made the decisions that got you here. You didn't understand at the time. You didn't know back when you were struggling to put food on the table. Back when you were saving in your 401k instead of buying a new car. You didn't know it then, but you made the decisions that got you here. You built the family. You built this family that respects each other. You did the hard part. All we did when you came and you engaged with us, because a lot of times they're thanking us for the work that we've done, all we did was help you refine it. We helped you understand the rules now. How do you hold on to that? And how do you continue to steward it well? There's a big difference when you start out with $100,000, you end up with, $4, $5, $6, $7, $8, $15 million. There's a big difference in the way that you see the world when that happens. You go from, my goodness, wouldn't it be great if I got some help, to, my goodness, don't take my stuff just because somebody else didn't try hard. You deserve everything good coming to you and your family if this is you. The American dream is not dead. It was never about what you own. It's about who you become, your portfolio of choices, the choices you've made and the choices that you will make going forward, long before anybody is even watching. You've been listening to Ditch the Suits. If you found this episode helpful, be sure to follow on your favorite podcast platform for more insights to help you make better financial decisions and get more out of your money and life.